Let's get into module 2 because module 2 is going to help us deal with, one or two things that Samuel wants us to do. So Samuel, be on standby. We'll need you at some point. But let me quickly take this class. Okay, I would take 30 minutes to probably run through a few things, and then we'll come back to what Samuel, gave us, right? The problem that Samuel gave us to solve. Someone has given us a problem. Can you imagine? The problem that Samuel gave us to solve, we will then solve it. Is that okay? So let me now teach you what is called the software development life cycle, which is module 2. All right. I won't go back to what Coach John has done. So this is the SDLC. A quick recap here. Now, remember that the business analyst is responsible for enabling change. At least you know that. The business analyst is what? Responsible for enabling change. Now, this change is delivered through the vehicle of a project. Now, let me explain that. Now, when you get in your place of work, you will, as a BA, enable change. But this change is usually going to come in the form of a project. Let me go on. I think you will understand it better. So, for example, as a business analyst, you will typically hear something like, we will place you on project XYZ. So you will not hear something like, we will place you on change XYZ. Although what you are actually trying to do is the change, right? But you will hardly hear them say change. Why? Because the vehicle for that change is called project. So that is why you hear those of you who have business analysis friends, you hear them say, I'm working on 2 projects. I'm working on 3 projects. They just gave me 1 project. In fact, they've not even put me on a project yet. That's what they mean. It's because the project becomes the vehicle to pursue the change. Are you getting me? All right. Okay, I'm getting somewhere with this. Now, when you work on that project, the outcome of that project, so working on the project brings about the change. So when you work on a project, the outcome of the project is actually the change. Are you getting me? All right, cool. Let's keep going. And a project, what is a project? A project is a series of activities that you complete within a given period of time to achieve a given set of outcomes. So you have a series of activities you're going to do, all right? And we're going to be talking about that very soon. And the outcome of the project is actually the change, all right? And all projects actually go through a cycle. All the projects that you work on will go through a cycle. That cycle is called the PMLC. It's called the Project Management Life Cycle. Okay, that's what it's called. Now, talking about the project management life cycle, this is not a project management class, but I just want to quickly show you 1 or 2 things so that you understand where I'm going to with this. All right, so stick with me. So there's what we call the initiation, the planning, the execution, and the closure phases of a project. So when a project is about to start, the first thing is that there is what is called initiation, where they begin to think about, is this thing worth going into? Is this the problem we really want to solve? Right? Once they've sorted that out and they know what they want to do, they now get into the planning phase where, they can now begin to discuss about the budget, talk about the stakeholders, talk about the scope. The most important thing here is the scope, especially for a BA. All right, talk about the project plan and all of that. Now, once everything is sorted and we know what we want to do, it's time to now execute that project. You see, because now we know what we want to do. Everything is sorted. We've confirmed everything. Now let's go and execute this project. So there will be some level of analysis, design, implementation, testing, depending on what you're doing. And once the project is done, there is now the closure of that project. Okay. And those of you who know project management, you're asking me, Michael, where is monitoring and control, right? I know you've probably heard that there's something called monitoring and control. Now, monitoring and control is within execution. So as you're executing, you're monitoring and you're controlling. That's why we didn't put that there, okay? For those of you who are project management major. All right, so now remember that projects in the IT space are mostly software-related projects. So for most of you, you'll be working in the IT space and your project will be software-related. And because that's the case, it then becomes important for us to show you the SDLC. The SDLC is the way software projects are executed. is called the Software Development Life Cycle. Software or System Development Life Cycle. All right? And it refers to the step-by-step process of executing a software or system project or building a software. Now, why did I bring you here? It's because Samuel is telling us to build an application for his local church. Are you getting the correlation now? Because Samuel is asking us to build an application for his local church to help him, be able to solve that problem of over-capturing or under-capturing, and this is a worthy project. Oh, it's a worthy project. You see, that's what he wants us to do. Okay, meaning that he wants us to build a product, a digital product, which we're going to do. So look at the PMLC: initiation, planning, execution, and closing of the project. Now, this is the SDLC. So initiation of the project, that one is already done. Planning, we'll look at the planning very soon. And then we need to execute that project and then close the project, right? So right now, we know the project that we want to work on. Samuel has told us what we want to do. Everything is sorted out, all right? He has told us what we need to do. So that's what we're definitely then going to do. Now, the next thing is that we're going to plan. We're going to do some planning. So what is planning about? What does planning mean? What does it mean to plan? Okay, every activity must start with a plan. It is very important to have a clear understanding of what we are going to build and how we intend to work, who is involved in the work, and the timeline. Let's keep going. After planning, you should have a clear understanding of what we are going to build, the scope, how we intend to work, who is involved in the work, the timeline for this work, and the tools we will be using. After the planning, we should at least understand these things. The most important thing here is the scope. So let us use Samuel's example to help you understand what it means to plan. Is that okay? Let us use Samuel's project. Now, in planning, you may do any of these things. You may do need assessment. We'll talk about that later. You can do feasibility study. You could do high-level requirements. This one is very key. Scope definition, or you can look at the competitor for competitor analysis. Now, this step coincides with the discovery stage or the planning phase of the project. So basically, what we are saying is that, so if I come back here, give me a minute. So you see this diagram I showed you, this planning. This is the planning we are talking about. Okay, some people include it in the SDLC. All right, so that's the planning that we are talking about. So in this planning, what happens? At the end of the planning, we should be able to come up with the project scope, a list of high-level requirements, sometimes a project plan, sometimes options analysis, because I remember somebody was trying to talk about, oh, what software should I use to reach a wider audience? Is it this, is it that, is it system.io, is it, we can now do an options analysis for him and take like 3 of those things and then begin to check against his criteria. You see? And then at the end of the day, we'll give him a recommendation report. How many of you, somebody was saying, oh, he wants to reach a wider audience. He wants to know what kind of tool he wants to use and all of that. Oh, good. So this is where we will now help him do an options analysis, take his criteria, all right, and then begin to check with these 3 tools or 4 tools. And then at the end of the day, we'll come up with a recommendation and tell him, listen, we advise or we recommend that based on this and this and that, we would advise that you go with this. So at that point, he has been given a recommendation based on our research. Now, if there's more to that, he can let us know and then we can work with him to get him to where he needs to get to. Is that okay? So what I'm trying to tell you that is in the planning phase, one of the things that is most important is the fact that we need to understand the scope. So let's get to work now. Don't let me bore you. So let's get to work here. Planning. So this is our project now. Okay. So this is our project that Samuel has given us. All right. Okay. Samuel has given us this thing for us to, to come up with, to build an application that will capture attendance accurately. So let me now engage Samuel. Samuel, I've asked you to, I've unmuted you. Okay, Samuel, how do you guys currently do your attendance?
We do it by head count. We do it by head count. So we have about 4 rows. We have about 4 rows. So each role is mounted by one individual called an usher who does head counts. So the person walks from the beginning of the row to the end of the row, and we just use the person's eyes to be doing the head count. Then we write it on the paper. So they do the head count twice in the service. At the end of the day, they now combine the data. So
Okay.
that's how it's currently being done.
Okay, good. So, what do you have anything like maybe full attendance or have attendance? Is that important to you guys? Like somebody came and did not stay throughout the service, they stayed like 3 minutes or 4 minutes and then went out, or they stayed. Is this something that you guys,
No, at the moment we've not captured that aspect. That's why we do the counting twice. So we do the counting first because the full service is an hour 45 minutes. So the first counting is 40 minutes into the service. Then the second counting is an hour 10 minutes, or about an hour 20 minutes into the service, which is about 20 minutes to closing. So that's where we do the 2 countings.
Okay, so which of the counts do you now finally take as the final?
The second count.
Okay, is final attendance. Okay, so second count is final attendance, right?
Yes.
I think it's not giving me what I want. Okay, all right. So head count, full attendance, partial attendance. You guys take full attendance, but at the end of, is there anything like segmentation? Do you guys do any form of
Yes.
segment?
Yes. We segment male, female, and children.
Okay, so your segmentation will involve male. You want to know the number of male, you want to know the female. Okay,
And children.
then you want to know the number of children. Okay. Okay, so this is important to you, male, female, and then children. Do they all stay in the same building, in the same, is all children, are they separated from the male?
Yes, children are separated. So someone counts the children, then others count the adults.
Okay. So some people count the children and some people count the adult. All right.
Yes.
So now, what do you think would be important for you going forward? What do you think you would need this application to help you? You want to be able to do with this application? Are there certain things you think, or is there something that you've seen other people do? Is there something you've seen some other people do that you would like to emulate? Can you give us an example of somebody that is doing what you would love to do, okay, so that we can check out what they are doing? Do you have an example?
At the moment, no, I don't have an example. But what I would love this project to achieve is, one, accurate capturing of data. Then two, like, is a church. So sometimes new members walk in. So doing ushering, the usher standing and just doing the head count, they are not able to pinpoint who is a newcomer or who is an already old member, except towards the end of the service that the pastor will announce for every newcomer should stand up for welcoming or stuff like that. Then they will stand up. So even when they stand up, they will now, if let's say a service of let's say 100 and 3 people stand, they will now capture those 3. They will now deduct 3 minus let's say 100. So that's how the math is currently being done.
Okay. So after these newcomers you've captured these newcomers, is there like a follow-up that you guys need to do?
Yes, the data is being, that's why the pastor is really hammering on the on the correctness of the data, because he uses the data for follow-ups and other activities.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what else do you think there will be need for, how many people do you think will be using this application? And how do you think they should be using this application? Do you think this would just be for the ushers? This is an application that just the ushers should use, or this is an application that is going to be open to everybody in the church?
For me, I would say an application for everybody.
Okay.
Yes.
Everybody. So if it is everybody, it means that the pastor would access this, the ushers will access this, the attendees would access.
Yes.
Now, is there different ways that they will be using this application? Like the attendees, is there a way they will use this application that is different from how the usher will use it? Is there a way that the pastor will use this application that is different from the way that the usher would use it?
Yes, the attendees will use the application by way of, let's say, clocking in, if I will put it that way. So their own aspect is just to clock in so that the system can capture them that, okay, they are present in church today. Whilst the pastor will serve as an admin that will have a backend to see the number of attendees, as well as if there is a newcomer, the system should be able to flag a newcomer so that we'll see the number of newcomers as well.
Okay. All right. So what of the ushers? Is there a role that they will play here in this application? Or is just something that when we build, as soon as they are coming into the church, they can just quickly, punch in their.
Yes, I think with this system, ushers will not have major role to play in terms of the
So they would
counting
just,
of attendance.
okay, so they will just be there to make sure that people fill the form.
Yeah, people use the depending on the kind of application we are building. If it's going to be a standalone the desktop application that needs.
We'll build an application where your ushers can stand on the, when people are coming in, is it that you guys have like a touch screen,
A touch screen, yeah,
like a tab, so that
yeah,
when they come in, if we already have like people in your database, as soon as
yeah,
they can see their details and click.
yes,
If they don't see
yeah,
that, it means that they are in new.
yeah, new, yeah,
Then they click on new, and then the usher can take them aside and say, "Oh, you're new, welcome," and then help them fill the form. While those
yes,
that are not new can just tap on their thing, and
that's it.
they don't need to write the time they came in. All right.
No, no,
And just capture that, oh, they came at this time, and then they will just go in. They don't need to do too much. So as long as they're just typing their name, they will just pick it up, except they are new. That's the only time they will spend like 1 minute or 2 minutes with the usher trying to put in a new thing. Do you think that will work?
yes, yes,
That will
yes,
work for you? Okay.
yes,
So basically now we have an application. So if we were to define this application for attendees, they're able to clock in. Clock in means that they would select, their names from the database, okay?
yes,
Or they would enter new entry for newcomers, right?
yes.
Okay, is there any other thing you think we need to do with this application on the attendee side?
I would say once a newcomer is being flagged, like once the system identifies a newcomer, when the person tries to put in his details and it doesn't pick, definitely is a newcomer, like you said, the usher will just take the person aside and welcome the person, put in person data. So once that data is captured into the system, more like a welcome SMS immediately triggers. So a customized message is already done in the system. So a welcome message is already a welcome SMS per se is already sent to the person's registered number, which is one of the required keys in the database. So even before the person is sitting down in the main auditorium, the person has received SMS welcoming the person to church.
So will this message be required for those that are attending church? Do you also want to send them like a warm message because they just attended church? Or this message, this notification is only for new people?
For me, I would say for new people, just at least to give them that sense of welcome.
Okay. All right. Now, is there any follow-up you would want them to do as a result of, registration? For example, as part of the follow-up message, do you want them to click a link to register for a foundation school or something?
Yes. So part of the so as part of the message, a link will be embedded into the message, directing them to the church website where they could get further informations, and also for them to register for the Church Believers Foundation class, which is the first step of becoming a faith-based person in the church.
Okay. Now you're going to tell your pastor that we are building something already. Yes,
Yes, sir.
Tell him that you are the BA. You are the BA of this thing.
Yes.
You'll see at the end of the day what we are doing.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have the attendees part, we have the pastor part. The pastor can see things from that end. They can, so basically right now, we now have what is called our scope of work. So basically, guys, we now have the scope of what we want to build. Now, this scope can increase, but at least for now, we have a scope, an idea, all right? We have a scope of what we want to build for, Samuel and his pastor, right? And this is what you do in planning. Now, let me help you. Let me show you some of our projects. For those of you who were on Wednesday, I wasn't here on Wednesday because we had collision with one of our projects. I showed you, right? We were at collision with one of our projects. One of our student projects is actually, seeking investors and all of that stuff. And that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So let me show you, give you a sneak peek of, I can't show you everything, but, it's just interesting. Just give me a minute. I'll just show you some pictures. And then I will show you where we started with that project, if that is okay with you, right? So let me quickly show you. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to. So this is one of the students' project that we worked on, and it was at Collision.
Experience ease while shopping for your favorite African grocery items. Shop from a variety of African stores near you and have your order picked up at store or delivered to your doorstep. At AfroShop, our checkout is seamless and our payment gateway is secure. AfroShop, your African groceries at your door.
Okay, so that's a project. That is us at Collision. All right. We spoke with a lot of people, both partners, investors, critics, a lot. So, we were at Collision. It was quite interesting. Now, AfroShop, how did we start? So I want to use this to explain everything that I'm teaching you practically. All right. So remember, I said the first step in SDLC is the planning. How many of you remember? The first step is the planning. And I said in the planning, one of the things you want to do is to understand the scope. You want to understand what you are building. So let's get there again. Let's go there again. So one of the things you want to understand is the scope, what you're building in the planning phase. Okay, so let's go there. So you want to have a clear understanding of what you're going to build. And you see, the reason why I'm asking Samuel these questions is so that we can have a clear understanding of what we want to build. Listen, guys, business analysis, what I just did with Samuel, it's what you do in business analysis. What I just did now is what you do. Okay, so this is AfroShop when we started the project. We are still doing the project anyways, but I just want to show you a few things. Now, you see what I just did with Samuel now? You see what I just did with Samuel? Is the same thing the students did with us when they were building AfroShop. They try to understand who will use this application. What are you trying to build? How will they use the application? Do they need to log in? Do they need to set location? Do they need to search for stores? Do they need to review carts? Do they need to do this? So by reason of conversation and asking questions, we were now beginning to understand the scope of the work, the scope that we need to cover. How many of you're getting what I'm saying? You're following me? How many of you
Yes, sir.
You're with me, yeah? All right.
Yes.
So they began to, for the shoppers, for the store owners, for the delivery agents and all of that. So this is where they started from. And that is where I am starting from with him. That what I just showed you now is what we call the use case. We are going to teach you all of that. I'm just trying to show you that, listen, this thing is not rocket science. It's not hard. It's not hard. Right? And what I'm trying to show you is as simple as it gets. It's as simple as what I'm showing you right now. It's not more difficult than what I'm showing you. So what I am doing now with him, trying to understand who is using this, who is doing it, what would they need to do, is the same thing the students did here. And then after they did this, the next step is what we call the step 2. After understanding the scope during planning, the next thing is number 2, analysis. It's called analysis. What is analysis? Analysis is where you now go inside and go deep dive. After planning, we dive into the detail. This is where you now go into the detail. The business analyst will now make effort to define detailed requirements. The business analyst will schedule meetings, deep dive sessions with relevant stakeholders, and elicit requirements, confirm requirements, carry out competitor research. And that is why I asked him, is there somebody doing something similar? So that we can go and look at what that person is doing. Maybe we can get some idea for you. So that is why I was asking him for the competitor, to carry out a competitor research, market research, liaise with Scrum teams to brainstorm ideas. This is what you'll be doing at this point. Did he say you are going to do it all alone? No, you will liaise with people the same way I'm talking with Samuel. So don't think you're the guy that needs to have all the knowledge of what needs to be built. Okay, before we came here, did I know I needed to build for him? Did I know? Hello? Did I know what I needed to build for him? No. It's the same thing with business analysis. When you get on a project, you will not know what you want to do. It's by reason of the interactions that you're going to have. Then over time, you will now know what to build. Are you getting me? Is that making sense to you? Does that make sense to you? Guys, is that making sense to you? All right. I want to believe that is a yes, that it's making sense to you. Okay, so let's now go into the detail. Okay, let's go into number 2. Let's go into analysis. Let's go into analysis. Okay. Okay, let's go into analysis. The first one that we did was planning. Okay. The first one that we did was planning. So in planning, we were just trying to understand a couple of things. And the second one we are trying to do is the analysis. So in the analysis, let's start with the attendees. So in the analysis, I'm going to give detailed requirements. Okay. So I would say number 1, attendees blocking. Okay. I'll say as an attendee, so I want to write the requirement. As an attendee, I want to be, in fact, let's leave all these ones. It's too, I don't want you to get confused. Don't worry. So attendees clocking. So now we want to get the details. What do we want the attendees to be able to do? All right. So attendees, so we're going to get the details here. So attendees can, select name from a curated list of from the database to fill attendance. Okay, Samuel, is that not one of the things you want them to do? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so this is for already registered members. Okay, so already registered members. Now we are going to do the detail, right? Already registered members can select name from the database to fill attendance. New members will have the option to create profile. Okay, to create profile. When profile is created, send notification to newcomer via SMS and email. Okay. Notification message should carry a link that redirects the user to church website and church website, Believers Foundation class. Is there anything we need to know about the clocking that we haven't captured here? Is there anything we need to know? Okay, this is fine, right? Nothing else.
Yes. Yes.
So for the pastor, pastor can view attendance. Okay. Okay, so here, pastor can view attendance, can view church attendance for the day. Can segment male, female, and children. Now, there's something here that we have not concluded. Now, profile creation. I think let's call this number 2. Profile creation. What do you want to capture in profile creation? What should they put? What information should they give?
Their basic details, name, first name, last name, email, phone number, address.
Easy, sir. First name, last name, phone
number, email,
address.
Okay,
what else? When they are filling this form, are they born again?
I think if they are already a member, if they've been a member before, or they are new, like more like a checkbox.
Okay, so
think that
been to church
before.
They are new, right? So we're expecting that they have not been here before, isn't it?
Oh.
Yeah. So
yeah,
you want to ask them if they were born again or something? Are there other questions?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sort of.
Okay.
Have you been baptized by immersion? Yes. No. Kind of.
Okay. What else?
I think that's the basic information that will capture them. From here, the pastor will know if the person is born again or not. Requires follow-up.
Would you like to be followed? Would you like to be visited or followed up in person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this could lead to when is a good time to visit. Okay, when is a good time to visit? So they can give us the day and time. Do you think this will be something that the pastor would like us to add here?
Yes, at least so that we don't barge into
You
their
see what I'm
private.
doing here? He probably did not have this in mind, but because I'm the BA who knows certain things and have heard certain things and probably has researched certain things, I can make some suggestions which I could put forward, and then he can confirm that he wants it, and then we put it in. Do you see what is happening there? It's the same thing that would happen during your workplace. Now, when the students came to me, they gave me certain things that I wasn't thinking of. They add certain things that I wasn't thinking of. Here, when they came to talk about, the AfroShop project with me, all right? Because they have looked at the competitor, they've looked at several other things, and then they decided, this is what I think you would need. All right, let's keep going. All right, so we have that. We have this one, all right? Okay, so now we have gotten some of the detail, especially like here, we knew that they would do profile creation, but we did not know the detail. How many of you are following me? In the scope, you may not know the detail. In the planning phase, you may not know the detail. But once you go into analysis, that is when you start asking the questions, you start doing deep dives, you start going back and forth, and then you are gathering as much information as you can. Now, once you've gathered this information, all right, you will now go to the next phase. And the next phase is called design. That's the next phase. Phase number 3. So phase number 1, planning, where we try to understand the scope of this problem, the scope of the solution, the scope of the work. Then we now move into analysis, where we now decided to now break down and go into the detail of what needs to be provided as the solution. And now that we have the solution, now that we have the details, we will now need to go into design. So let me show you an example of what design is about. Okay? So from there, we went into the details, and then we went into design. So we started designing what that store should look like. This is what we call the wireframe. Now, you are not the one who will do this. Okay? Oh, thank you so much. So there's something we missed here because they want to segment. So we need to ask them for their gender. Male, female, right? We call it gender, right? So we need to ask for gender, male, female, and then we need to also add, ask for age, so that we are able to then categorize them as adults or children. Because that's another thing that, Samuel's pastor wants to see. So Stephen, thank you for that. So I think another thing is age. Okay.
Date of birth. Is it age or date of birth?
So the date of birth may not necessarily, some people may not be willing to tell you their date of birth, but you can say age bracket. So maybe we can say something like you are, 0 to, the children's school is, children is from what to what? What do you classify as children?
Age 2 to 16.
Age 2 to 16. Let's say 0 to 16, because they would,
Yeah.
the mothers will be with them. So 0 to 16. You don't have teens. You don't.
Age 10 to 16 is teens. Children is 2 to 8. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do 0 to 9. So where's the 9?
Children.
So let's do 0 to 9. We'll call them children. Okay. Okay, and then we'll do 10 to what? 17.
16.
Okay.
17. 10 to 17.
Okay.
Teens.
And then
18. Adult.
18 to 25. We just want to know their age bracket. So 26 to
35,
maybe 30,
35.
let's say 34.
Oh, okay.
So this 24, 25 to 34, maybe 35 to 44. Okay. And 45 to
60.
Yeah, let's do 45 to 60 and then 60 plus. Okay. So
Yes.
the checkbox. So this would be more like a checkbox.
Yes.
Okay. So the next phase is design. After you've done your analysis in the SDLC, okay, your next phase is the design. And I was showing you some of the designs. Okay. All right. So this is what we call the wireframe. All right. And then you can now go into what is called a high fidelity design. You can now go into this one and start building this, the high fidelity design. All right. Now, you are not the designer. You are not the one responsible for design. You're the one responsible for giving requirements to the designer. But in this course, we are going to teach you wireframe. I'm going to teach you wireframing. Okay. So let me see if I still have my balsamic so that I will show you one or two things. Hopefully my balsamic is still here. Okay. I'm not able to. I'm not able to sign in. I'll look for another different way. But okay, don't worry. I will show you something else. Let me go. I'll get my iPad. So once I get my iPad, I'm able to show you what I want to show you now. The next thing I'm about to show you. So give me a minute quickly. I'm just going to grab my iPad and then we'll continue. Is that okay? Something. All right, so I'm back. So remember, the next step is design, right? The next step is design. So that's what I want to show you right now. So the next phase is design. So let's do that quickly. So give me a minute. I cannot go into balsamic. We're going to teach you wireframe, but since I can't access balsamic right now, I'm just going to show you what design is about. Is that okay? And I'm going to use my, I hope I have some battery. Okay. Now just have a look at, you can take a screenshot of what we have here. Okay, you can take a screenshot because you will not see the screen anymore. You'll probably be seeing my, give me a minute. So give me a minute. Split view. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen right now. My battery is really low, but just bear with me. Please confirm when you see my screen. Okay, can you confirm that you can see my screen? What we were doing previously? Okay, can you confirm that you can see what we were doing previously? Okay, you can see what we're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to move this a little bit. All right. I'll move this here a little bit and I'll move it. Still going to move it a little bit more. Oh my God. Okay, let me move it a little bit more. All right. Okay, so I've moved this a little bit more. So we can now come in here. So the next thing is the design. All right. So after you've done the analysis, now you will now pass this on to the designer. So the designer will now take the information you've given them, and they will now start designing. Okay, so this is not a perfect design. I'm just showing you the steps, okay, that go into this. So you will have handed over this requirement to them, okay, and then they will then design the interface. This is what we call the user interface design, UI design. It's called user interface, okay, user interface design. Okay, so they will now take this. So maybe we'll put the church logo here. So welcome to church, something like that. Okay, welcome to church. And then we'll probably put the logo somewhere here. Okay, the name of the church and the logo will be somewhere here. And then we will say, so this will be the name. You enter your name. All right. So as you are entering your name, it's going to do what is called auto suggestion. So this is a placeholder. As you type your name, so this is screen 1. Okay, this is screen 1. So let me show you screen 2. So screen 2 will be, as you enter your name, it is going to, so as you enter Sa, it is going to bring out some names here. It's going to show you Samuel Ejiofor. It's going to show you Samuel Bright. It's going to show you Sarkodie. Okay, all the S, right? You remember, you see what I'm saying? All the people from your database. Okay, it will show you as you're typing. Now, as you're typing, it will show you. Now, if you are not there, okay, if you are not there, so Sarkodie will go out here. All this will be in the design, okay? All this will be in the design. So let's see, welcome to church is what we wrote here. So let's know, Samuel, if what we are building, suits what you're saying. So when they come in here, remember, I'm not a user experience, I'm not a user interface designer, but I'm just trying to show you what happens typically in these things. Okay, so if you now type, so if you have the right Samuel here, you just select it, okay? You just select it. Once you select it, it's going to fill this up, all right? It's going to fill this up, and then it will say Samuel Ejiofor, okay? And then it will say submit. Now, it will say submit because we know the day. We know the day, that today's date is Sunday, June 23rd. We know the time. The time is 3:40 p.m. So we know the service. So once it says submit, on the back end, they are going to receive, because Samuel already has his data. Is a male, is this, is gender, is email, all those things is already there. So we will receive that, oh, Samuel came to church today. He came 3:40 p.m. Samuel, does that work for you and the pastor?
Yes.
Okay, now let's now go to the interface where Samuel is not in the database. Because remember, we are going with our, if you remember, we are going with our requirement. Already registered members can select name in the database. This one is done. This one is done. See this one here? This one here is done. Okay, so we can say this one is what? Is done. Okay, done.
Hello, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
What about using phone number as the search criteria? Because no two persons uses the same phone number. And as you're creating the profile, you're already
wonderful. So we can say name or phone.
Yes.
Lovely. So if they are putting their phone number or putting their name, all right, okay, it will either show their name or their phone number. So whichever one is fine. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. So let's do full name and phone number. All right. Now you submit, and then it will tell you that this is, this is the person is in church. Now let's talk about the person who is not in church. Sorry, has not been registered in the database. Okay. So if the person has not been registered in the database, you will have all these things: the date, the time, the welcome to church will be here. Okay. And as they type it in, okay, if they type their number, maybe 090241337, okay, and it cannot be found, okay, it says no match, okay, it will now give you an option: create new entry, new comma, create new entry, something like that. It will say create new entry. I don't want to say newcomer. I don't know whether we should tell them newcomer or create new entry. Which one do you think will be better for you?
Create new profile.
Okay, so create new profile. Okay, because remember, don't forget that the usher will be here, standing with them. And the usher will say, oh, you're not in the database before? Have you been here before? You say, yes. Oh, maybe you're not in the database. You know what? Let's get you to open a new profile. So maybe they can now leave them. If there's a queue, they can take them away to their own tab and try to create a new. So when they click on this, it's now going to take them to another page. Okay. Okay, create new profile. So it's going to take them to this page called, create new profile. Okay, it will take them to that page called creating. Remember that we are doing this part now. This is what we are doing now. When profile is created, okay, we are doing this one. New members will be able to see the option to create new profile. This is what we are doing now. Can you see that? That part that new members will create new profile is what we are doing now. So they'll be able to create, remember, first name, okay, first name, last name. This is the design. Phone number, email, gender will be a drop down. Okay, their gender. So they will choose the options, maybe male, female, whatever. And then age. Age will be a radio button. Okay, that will say 0 to 9, child. Okay, it will be another radio button, 10 to 17, based on the requirement. It will be another radio button. Okay, 18 to 24, another radio button, 25 to 34, another radio button, 35 to 44, another radio button, 45 to 60, and then we have 60 plus. Okay, maybe this is one of two, you see, and they will have like next. So when they click on next, they will go to the next thing. We are still creating the profile. Okay, so create new profile. Okay, now the next thing will be address. So there will be a back button here, a back. So this is 2 of 2, and then there will be a submit. Okay, so this will now be address. Now this address, what we'll do is we will make it an autofill. So as you are typing your address, we'll connect it with a Google API. All right, don't worry, we're going to tell you what an API is. It's application programming interface. We're going to teach you that in module 5. So as you're typing, it's going to show you the address 27 Darling Side. Okay, and then SE2PR something. It's going to show you all the different address, and then you can select that one. So we can use just one stuff here. Okay, instead of having address line 1, address line 2, address line 3. Okay, if it is not found, then we can now use a manual address. Do you understand? We can use a manual address. Okay, then we'll now have this one. Are you born again? No, yes. Okay, if they select yes, it's going to bring out another stuff to say when were they born again, the date, when were you born again? So it's going to bring out another one there. Have you been baptized? The same thing here. Have you been baptized? So they will say yes, no, or yes or no, whichever one. And then they will select which one actually. So you can see that we now have a design for his application. Now, after design, when you now have the design, okay, how many of you are following up to this point? How many of you have followed me to this point? If you have followed me, please put yes in the chat. Let me be sure you are gaining something meaningful here. You're gaining something meaningful here? It makes sense to you? Is this making sense? All right, it's making sense. Okay, cool. So you see, you now have, we're almost done with one full project. Oh, can you imagine? It's just that Samuel's pastor needs to pay us now so that we can build it. Huh? Aha. Now, you can now see that design. So let me take you to my screen, to my other screen. Okay, I don't need to take it to the other screen. So after design, you can see that we've done design. Okay, we've done design. Design is done. Okay, we've done design. That one is done. The next thing now is for us to now go into the next thing. After design is what we call implementation. Implementation. Okay, it's called implementation. Let me see if okay, it's easier for me to, I'm just going to stop using and I'm going to come here. And I'm going to show you the here. All right, so implementation. I think you can now see my screen. Okay, so implementation. So this implementation is where they will now take the design, okay, and your requirements, and will now give it to the developer. And then the developer will now pick it up and now start looking through the design and asking questions if he has any question. Guess who is going to be asking questions? You. Because you understand what needs to be built. So he's going to be asking you questions. Is there anything here, anything there? And then he's going to look at the design and your requirements, and then he's going to build it. Are you getting what I'm saying? So that is where you will now have that this thing here has now become this thing here. So now this has been built. So the design has now come into, will now be implemented and will now be built. Okay, so that thing which you saw as a design now, we can now begin to see it being built. We can now go in here, we can now continue shopping, or go in here, we can now decide to check out or check out as a guest. Okay, if we check out as a guest, okay, we can then decide, so we can decide to do these things. Are you getting me? Are you following me, guys? Okay. Are you following me, guys? Is this making sense to you? All right. Now, let me now introduce you to the next phase. Let me introduce you to the next phase. So remember, we are talking about the SDLC: planning, analysis, design, implementation. You know what happens in all those stages, right? Now, the next thing is what we call testing and integration. Testing and integration. That's the next phase. Testing and integration. Let me see somebody who is bold, who kind of knows, in your mind, you kind of know, from what he's saying, I think this is what is going to happen here. Is there somebody like that? Don't be afraid. this is the place to, to not get it. All right. This is the place to feel free and sound, foolish or sound, like, or sound ignorant. Okay. This is the place to do so. There's no stupid question or foolish contribution, nothing like that. All right. I'd rather you do those things here than go and do it in your job. So how many people, before talking about testing and integration, you can tell me what you think will happen here? Okay. Okay, let me let Kenny talk. Okay, Kenny, tell me. Tell me. Go ahead, Kenny, I've unmuted you. What do you think will be happening in this testing and integration stage? Talk to me.
Can you hear me?
Of course, loud and clear, I can hear you.
Good. So as regards to the testing and integration, is more or less like after all things have been done, starting from the planning, the analysis, that is after analyzing all what is needed or what needs to be done for getting the data information about the church, people, newcomers, gender, male, and every other person like that. The testing has to do with it just has to do with confirming what has been done or trying to put a test roll together with the integration. It's just like it's more or less like having a test design or test cases, or probably to see or to know if all the analyses are correct or are accurate, if the planning is going to work. So the testing has to come in place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I hear some words there that a new person will be probably thinking, what is this saying? Test cases, test cases. So it looks like he's someone who knows one or two things. All right, thank you so much there, Kenny. All right, I'm going to unmute Samuel. You've been talking, so don't worry, just chill. Let me unmute Latifa. Latifa, go ahead, please. Latifa, go ahead.
Please.
Yeah, Latifa, how are you? Did you see my
Yes, I did.
You saw my email? Okay.
Yes, I saw it. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Going by everything that you've explained, you at the implementation stage, you said this has turned into something like a website. So testing should be like trying out everything that has been created to ensure that they are working fine before actually sending it out, to avoid, should I say, flop or issues while the users are making use of the platform.
Perfect. Thank you. You and Kenny, you've actually said, you've done well. You've said the right things. Okay, so at this stage, when it comes to testing and integration, you want to actually, now think about it. So many of you give your clothes to your fashion designer when you're getting ready for what do they call it? The wedding. There's this thing they call Ashoebi, right? You take it to the designer or your tailor, and then the tailor puts your dress together. Now, how many of you will collect your dress from the tailor and just boom, the first time you're putting it on is on the wedding day? How many of you do that? Yeah? How many of you? Is that what you do? The first time you are actually putting on this dress is when you're going for the wedding. You must have so much faith in that your tailor. How many of you? Okay, so what do you do? What would you do typically? Anybody? What would you do typically when you give your clothes to the tailor? What is it that you do? Yeah? Can somebody tell me what you do?
You go for fitting.
You go for fitting. You check it out. Did he do the shaba the way I wanted the shaba? Because you gave him requirements. You gave your tailor the specifics. You gave your designer specifics, right? You gave that designer certain specifics for them to build with. So you want to check Have they done what you asked them to do? You try it out. Thank you, fine. You would try it out. Stephen said, I lost you because of my audio. Okay, you may have to go back to the recording, okay? The recording will be made available, so go back to the recording. Okay, so, the first thing you want to do is you're going to try it out. You're going to try it out to see if this thing fits, right? If they've actually done the thing that you wanted them to do. Maybe you wanted some embroidery here, you wanted the hook to be a bit different, you wanted, shoulder pad. You wanted a few things done differently. So you have to test it to see if this person has actually done it the way you wanted it done. That's what testing is about. However, there are different types of testing when it comes to what we're doing. But before I go into testing, let me help you understand integration. Okay? Let me help you understand what? Integration. Now, integration is just the same way the tailor builds. How many of you have seen the tailor actually, work on a dress? They don't just build the dress. How many of you know that? They cut the arm. They will cut the, I don't know what they call that one now. They'll cut different parts and then begin to bring them together. How many of you know that? That's how the tailor builds, right? That's how they build your shirt and your trousers. It's not as if they just build the trouser like that in one go. They take the different parts and then begin to make up the dress. How many of you agree with me? You understand what I'm trying to say? Huh? How many of you? You understand what I'm trying to say there with respect to the dress? You understand what I'm trying to say? Okay, good. That's the same way your applications are being built. So for example, when you want to build this application, okay, you could build this guest info first and then build this delivery side and then build this and then integrate it. You understand? Okay. All right. You can so let's go to you can build this first and then build this next and then integrate it. Integration can also come. How many of you have seen when they say sign up and you sign up using Google? How many of you have seen that thing before where you sign up using Google? Do Google work for us? Do we work for Google? How many of you have signed up using Google before? I just want to ask. How many of you have signed up using Google before? Whether you signed up or signed in anywhere using Google. How many of you? Good. Do those companies work for Google or do Google work for those companies? No. But Google is a simple way to get them to authenticate. So what do? You integrate Google. So that's another integration. So integration simply means bringing parts together to make a whole. So you're going to bring certain things that are part of that build. So you build them in units. You build things in units. When you are building, you build them in units, and you now bring those units together to make a whole. Please follow this. Don't miss it, because I'm about to get into another concept quickly. So you build in units, and when you bring those units together, you integrate it to make a whole. Now, when you build these units, you have to test them. So if you build this unit, for example, you have to test it as a unit. It is what we call unit testing. Somebody missed that. So when you build these units, right, you test them if they are working individually. Like when the tailor first cuts the arm, he will need to check if that arm actually fits, right? He will check it before he now takes it and integrates it to the rest of the other cloth. He needs to know that the allowance is okay before he integrates it. So unit testing is when you test each of the unit components. Now, when you now integrate it with another component, there is a tendency that you may stop that other component from working properly. there's a tendency you can stop other components from working properly. So what you do is that when you now integrate, you have to test again. Okay? This is what we call regression testing. Why? Because when you add a component to a component that was already working, there's a tendency for it to regress instead of progress. Do you understand? So instead of it to progress, it may regress because you may damage or spoil one or two things. So when you add a new functionality or you add a new unit to by reason of integration, we need to go and check if it has regressed or not. If it has regressed other functionalities, that type of testing is what we call regression testing. Are you getting me? So you've heard of unit testing, regression testing. Now there's another testing I want to talk to you about. Now, when you are almost done with the work, like when we are almost done with this work, we are going to now talk to Samuel and his pastor and give them the link and say, oh, you guys, take this thing. Okay, so the first one that I talked about, guys, was unit testing. Next one that I talked about was what? Regression testing. And the last one that I'm talking about is the UAT, which is user acceptance testing. Okay, the UAT. So we will now give this to Samuel and his pastor to help us walk through it end to end. Test it as though this is now the product they should be using. So they will test it end to end thoroughly to make sure that they can accept it. Remember, I was building for them. They will now test it to make sure they can accept it. It's called user acceptance testing. If there is anything they discover is wrong, they will let me know as the BA. They will tell me, they will say, Latifa, this thing is not working properly. So you would now take note of it, and then you would what? Send it back to your developers. You prioritize it for your developers. Do you understand that now? Okay, now, there is something called test cases. Test cases. What a test case does is to take a specific scenario that you want to test. It takes a specific scenario. Please listen to this. Test case. While doing testing, you may be responsible for writing a test case if you do not have a dedicated QA team doing it. If you do not have a dedicated QA team, QA means quality assurance or software testers. If you do not have a dedicated QA team doing this, you may be responsible for doing that job. You may be responsible for writing what is called the test case. What is the test case? Very simple. Very simple. The test case is very simple. So in the test case, you would write about the scenario you want to test. So for example, in a test case, I can write about the test scenario. So let's talk about test case quickly. We are almost done. Now I'm supposed to give you a break, but because this is a free class and I want to cover as much as possible, in your class from next week, you will take a break. Okay, we'll give you a break of 15 minutes thereabout. You'll take a break, but this is a free class, so and we want to cover as much as possible with you guys, so you may bear with us. Okay, all right. So in a test case, you talk about the test scenario. Maybe the test scenario you want to check is successful login. You see, you want to just test successful login. So with the successful login, all right, you want to probably do a test description. You want to describe what this thing is about. Okay, user enters valid username and password and gets authenticated. Maybe you now have test data, because they will give you the right test data, a test data that is right, that is valid. You see, they'll give you a test data. So they will give you username, and call it maybe Samuel is the username. And then they will give you the password, this test data. Okay. And then they will give you the password is Ojukwu 1 at #4. Maybe this will be so that the person that comes to this test case knows what he's testing, knows what he should be, looking for. He knows the test data he should use. And then we'll now tell him, in the test case, you also have what is called expected result. So you will now tell him that the expected result is that the user is authenticated and redirected to their dashboard. You will now have also what is called actual result. So that when you test it, if it does not do what this is, you now tell us what the actual result is. If it didn't do this thing, you now tell us that user was not authenticated. For example, you see? So failed or pass. So you can say that this thing failed. You cannot tell us the browser that you use. Maybe, we are testing with different browser. You can tell us that you use Chrome, you use Firefox, okay? And if we have different environments, which I'm going to teach you next week, or Coach John will be the one to teach you, whichever way, all right? So all these things will form your test cases. Now, I know you're looking at it like this. Sometimes it's spelled out like this. Sometimes you find it this way. Give me a minute. Let me show you an example. Trying to find examples for you. Let me see. Sometimes you may find it like this. You can see. Okay, you may have like prerequisite, step number, the steps you need to take, expected result, actual result, pass or fail. You see? So here I can put test steps. So here I can put test steps. Okay, so test scenario is number 1, test description. I don't know why it's not doing that. Test data, test steps, expected results. So the test steps will be step 1. Enter user name. Very simple. Step 2. Enter password. Step 3. Select the login CTA, call to action. That means the button. Okay, those are the steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3. That's all you need to do for this particular scenario, for this particular test scenario, which is the successful login. That is all you need to do. Then the expected result. Okay, now prerequisite. You can also have what is called prerequisite. Okay, you can also have what is called prerequisite, meaning that what should be there, or precondition. Okay, or precondition. What is the prerequisite? The prerequisite is that user is already registered. Because if you're not registered, then you cannot log in. So this is what we call test case. Very simple. So for each of the things you'll be testing, you write the test case so that we know what you are testing. That's what the test case is. So you are likely to do that and you're likely not to do it. It depends on your company. It depends. Like some people don't do it. Some people do it. It just depends on where you find yourself. Okay, so you write the test case and all of that, and then you test. By the time you're done doing the testing and your team, your QA team has done the testing, everything looks good. The next step. The next step is for you to now deploy. That's the next step. It's for you to deploy. It's for you to deploy this application. It's for us to now deploy it to the church members for them to start using. Samuel, would that be great? You and your pastor, eh? You'll be so happy. Huh? So it's now for us to deploy it. Let them start using it. And as they are using it, they are probably telling us what is right, what is wrong, and things like that. If they notice anything, they will let us know. And then we will now go into the next step, which is called maintenance. Maintenance. That's the next step there, maintenance. So in maintenance, there will be some dedicated, developers probably, checking the metrics and things that are happening with the website. If anything is going wrong or bad, you can also get feedback from customers or people that are using this thing so that you know what next to do. You can check if the benefit has been realized, if what the pastor wanted to achieve with this thing in the next 3 months have been achieved. Do you understand? You can check all those things, and then you can now begin to make your inferences and come back and also, take those feedback as actionable requirements going forward. Does that make sense? So that brings us to the 7 steps, from planning to analysis, to design, to implementation, testing and integration, deployment, and maintenance. And that is what, my friends, the SDLC is about. So everything that I will teach you here is, I just taught you already, analysis, okay? Number 2 is analysis. Okay, here you'll be writing user stories, product backlog. Now, before I go into the slide, how many of you understood everything we've said so far? You understand everything we've said so far? You understand everything we've said so far? Okay, you understand everything. Good. Now, that is how easy this thing is. And your job is just to make sure that everybody understands the requirements that have been put together for this. That is your job. So that is where I'm going to, that's where I'm going to, kind of begin to draw the curtain for today. And I'm going to open the floor for questions. All right, I'm going to open the floor for questions. If you have any question, just please raise up your hand. I'm going to take your questions, whether it was from the first class, from the second class, it's about the program. Remember, this is week 1 of a 10-week training where, for the purpose of the reminder, let me show you what you're going to get from the training. For the purpose of just reminding you what you get from the training. So you're going to get, okay, you know what? I think the best way is to go on the website, go to Europe, Africa, and then you can download the brochure. That's the easiest way to know what you get. All right. So you can see that I'm already teaching you module. I already taught you this. Okay. So I need to start going into software development environment, waterfall. Coach John already taught you this, all these things. Do you need to be a techie, stakeholder management, and all of this? So you can see we are going. So hopefully in week 5 or week 6, we can give you your project to start working on. And like we say, you work on live projects. There's a lot of wonderful projects that our community is working on. And some of these projects are actually doing very well. And I showed you just an example of one of the projects. There's a lot of projects that we're working on. Speak It is an example of such projects. Travel Together is another project. Mental Touch is another project. The AfroShop Driver app, that's a mind-blowing one. It's another project. All right. There's Pack Join, Neighborly. There's several other projects that we've been able. Afro Project Bridge. There's Food Court. There's the Experience Hub. So these are, lovely, lovely projects that we've been working on in this community, and you will be working on similar projects also. I can show you a catalog of some of the lovely projects that we are building, and these are live projects you can defend to get a job. For those of you who have been following us on Instagram, you see all the jobs coming in, right? Yeah. So you can see all the jobs coming in. You want to be part of those people. So you can see all the projects here from, all the projects here. This is a project we are doing for the Calgary Airport. This is a real project. So most of our projects are live projects. This is a project we are doing for the Calgary Airport. It's called AirPax, Air Passenger Experience. Okay. We already showed them the prototype. Now we want to build the proof of concept. So we already showed them the prototype for that is an integration of Wayfinder plus the Wayfinder plus the e-commerce experience using your Wayfinder in the airport, right? So we are not joking here, all right? So we train you using the practical approach. It's not just the theoretical side of things. You get an opportunity to see how ideas are brought to fusion. And what I tell people about, what I tell people about this training is that, number one, life is too short for 9 to 5. It's one thing to train you to do a 9 to 5, and we are happy to do that to help you get a job. For those of you who follow us on our social media, you know that we are getting jobs every week. Students are getting jobs every week. So that is fine. But one of the happiest things that I see the students do is that they're able to take what we teach them and build their own business. They take what we teach them and they build their own business from it, which is the big part of it. And we are here to support you on that too, just in case you decide to go in that direction, because we have the team. I believe Coach John actually showed you, we have a team of developers, we have a team of designers, we have a team of people that we work with. So we are able to also help you do that. Now, as part of this course, you're not just going to be learning business analysis, it's one of the things. You're going to be learning product ownership, which is huge. All right. So you're going to be learning what? Product ownership. You will learn product ownership. We're going to help with gaining hands-on experience on the job support. Resume clinic is going to be one-on-one. Interview prep, one-on-one. All right. Everything you can think of, end to end. And you can always check us up on Google. We have about, as at the last count, 202 5-star reviews. Okay, you can't go wrong. 5-star reviews, you can't go wrong. Okay, so what is this going to cost you? What is this course going to cost you? Now, this course is going to cost you normally $1,025 for everything that we do. Now, I've had people call me to say, oh, I can get this course for cheap. I can get it for $500. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can go there. Yeah, you can get it for $500. I'm not arguing. I know you can even get it for $50 on Udemy, but you can't get the same thing that we do here. It's different. The quality is different, right? But because we want to encourage you also to come on board, we'll give you a 20% discount if you're making a one-time payment. And if you're making a 3-time payment, we're giving you a 15% discount. So if you're making a 3-time payment, so you can come in here, click on that, go in here. If you're making a one-time payment, you say off 20, and then you apply that for the one-time payment, right? If you're making a 3-time payment, you come in here, you click on that, and you can say off 15, and then you apply that, and you get your 15% discount. All right. This is open. It's open for you this weekend. So for those of you who are looking to join us in, going forward from, it's a 10-week course. We've done week 1 already. So you can imagine how much you've learned in week 1. So you can imagine how much you're going to learn week 2 to week 5. So when I say you can test the waters in week 5 or week 6, it's no joke. You need to start looking at those job descriptions. All right, so the ball is in your court. We've shown you what you are most likely going to get. Okay, you can hold us responsible to everything that we said. And that is why we have a brochure that you can access at any time T, right? You can hold us to this. When it comes to the tools, you're going to learn the tools for the trade. The tools for the trade will be Jira, Confluence, diagramming with Draw.io. You would learn to be able to use Figma, Figma for collaboration, Miro for collaboration, and all of those things. It's all included as part of this package. There are no hidden costs, right? But let me set the record straight. Now, when it comes to your one-on-one sessions, you will have about 2 sessions for your resume. Now, the way we do resume is different here. So we sit with you to understand where you're coming from. Remember that Coach John had initially told you on Wednesday that business analysis, or a business analyst, is not the person who has the title, but the person who has done a business analysis task. So one of the things we do is sit with you to understand what business analysis task have you done in the past? Now, let me show you an example of the resume I'm talking about. Let me see if I can show you an example of the resume. And maybe that would help that will help you. Resume. Give me a minute. I'm trying to pull a resume out so I can show you an example. Okay, so let me show you an example of a resume here. Okay, so look at this resume. Look at this resume in front of you, guys. Business analyst, product owner, carried out options analysis for different EDI platforms and provided recommendations based on business goals. Worked with different departments within Pet Value to understand the pain points associated with using the current EDI platform. Created interview guides and carried out interviews with head of departments and direct users of the, you see the interview we're talking about? You see how I was talking with Samuel? That's interviewing. That's elicitation. Yeah. The thing is, how do you express it on your CV? All those little things you did, how do you express it? How do you make it carry weight? Never forget that your CV is your marketing tool. It's how you market yourself. It's a marketing tool. Always see it like that. That is what your CV is. So it is who markets himself properly. And that's the person we are going to look at. Not the person that knows it. The person that markets himself. Before we now come to the point where we know whether you know it or not, we first need to see you as somebody who looks like the persona that we have set out to look for. So if you look at this, communicated and confirmed requirements with dev for the configuration of the SPS commerce application, identified OOTB. OOTB means out-of-the-box features, and features requiring some extra layer of integration for implementation success. Liaise with dev to confirm integration feasibility of EDI with existing ERP system. Worked with cross-functional team to gather, analyze, and define EDI, that's electronic data interchange requirements. Now, just reading this, how many of you, let's be sincere, how many of you would believe that this guy must be a BA? Like this guy, he was probably born a BA. How many of you looking at this resume, you would tend to, I mean, you would believe that this guy is a BA? How many of you? Let me see, if that is you, put yes in the chat. Let me be sure. How many of you believe that this guy is a BA? I just want to help you understand one or two things. Yeah, you will give him a chance. By the way, this guy was getting interviews back to back, just to let you know. Now, but what if I told you that this guy is a finance person? He works in finance. What if I told you he works in finance and he understands everything that is here? Why? When he sat with me, he was telling me, Michael, they came to my department, we were working on, there's this software we use in my department in finance, where we try to, track the purchase order, the this and that with the finance and the logistics people. But there's this particular software they came and they implemented. They were talking to, I said, what's the name of the software? He told me. I said, okay, what were they trying to achieve? He told me. I said, you know what they were trying to achieve? He said, yes. I used the system. I said, you use it? He said, yes. I said, can you talk about it? He said, yes. I said, you're a BA. So everything that is here, he knows it. It's just that, some of you, in week 10, I'm going to teach you what is called work experience. I have a class called work experience and resume building, right? It's a 3-hour class. Some of you don't know what work experience is. That class, I teach you what work experience is. Because it's not everything that is on YouTube. Because obviously everyone thinks everything is on YouTube. It's not everything that is on YouTube. Some things are premium. You have to buy it. Yes. There's some things I can't tell you until you pay. It's not a joke. It's reality. Because you need to, it has to cost you something. Otherwise, you will take it like every other thing. Yeah. So there's some things you need to know about work experience. If you do not know those things, you always think that, maybe that thing you did at your workplace should be the things you put on your resume. That's the only thing you should. No, beyond that. Okay. So in the resume clinic, these are the kind of things we do. We sit down with you and then try to understand, where have you been? What have you done? Okay, where are we going? Okay, what do you understand? What can we show to these guys? Okay, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. It's a personalized thing. So A and B don't have to say the same thing. And what you're saying is actually what you can defend. Because you know it. You've done it. Do you understand? We won't go and cook a resume for you in the backyard and then tell you, take it, go and eat it. No, that's not how we work here. So resume clinic, the interview prep, you have at least 2 one-on-one sessions, and then you will have access to our resume videos. You also have access to the recording for the classes. Okay, you can see all these are recordings for the classes. You will have access to this one. It's called the interview prep video. All right, you're going to have access to that also. Now, for those of you who want to run faster than your shadow, you know what I say, faster than your shadow. You want to go quick. You can come in here and look at some interview prep videos. You can come in here, look at some interview prep questions. Where are those interview prep questions? So you can come in here, look at some interview prep questions that can help you, to be better informed about, depending on the company. Okay, it just depends on what company you're going to. If we have the company here, you can see some of their stages for their interview, and then you can prepare yourself. Some of these are some of the questions that they ask you anyways. All right, and you can prepare for them. I usually tell the student, give me 3 interviews, I will give you 1 job. Have you heard that before? Give me 3 interviews, I'll give you 1 job. As long as you do your part. Give me 3 interviews, I will give you 1 job. I can confidently say that, because most of the students that have gotten jobs usually get jobs within 3 interviews. Most of them, the first interview, and I'm not kidding. All right. So, the ball is in your court. Take actions. Everybody you see changing their lives or moving in this direction actually had to take action. All right. It's not the easiest for some of you to make this kind of payment. And that is why we are committed to making sure that you get the most value for your money, because we know it's not easy to throw out that kind of money. But one thing I can promise you is value for your money. Now the ball is in your court. That's all I can say. And that's where I will stop for today. So I'm just going to send you the links to this in the chat and in the Telegram group. For those of you in the Telegram group, I would throw that into the chat, and I'm opening the floor for questions. If you have any questions, please, now is the time to ask your questions. So if you have any question, can I see your hand up? I'm going to unmute you. Kenny, is that a question? I see your hand up. I'm going to unmute you. Okay, you can use off 15 to claim discount. So I'm putting it in the chat right now. Okay, now for the one-time payment, I'm putting that in the chat also for the one-time payment. Give me a minute. One-time payment. You use off 20 to claim your discount. And then I'll see you in class to claim your discount. And then I'll see you in class. Okay, Stephen has a question. So I'm muting you to talk. Go ahead and go ahead, Stephen. Go ahead, I've unmuted you, Stephen. You want to ask a question? Hello, Stephen. I've unmuted you. You said you wanted to ask a question. I've unmuted you. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
All right. In regard to the payment, I'm not able to make the payment this week. Cannot make the payment next weekend, because that's when I will get my pay from where I'm working.
So yeah,
I still get the discount.
Yeah, reach out to me if that's your situation. Just reach out to me on +1, or you click. I don't know why this thing has decided. You click on this. It's our WhatsApp. Okay, you can chat with me on WhatsApp here.
Which one?
You can click on this thing. I don't know why the WhatsApp this thing has gone. Maybe somebody tampered with the code. I don't know. This one, or you do +1 437 345. Okay.
Hold on. Let me write it, please. Is it plus? Call again. Plus
437 345.
Okay.
In the chat.
345
0501.
2501.
0501.
Hold on. 0501 plus